Hello, I'm Marty Duda, and we have Don McGlashan with us today. Come for a little visit on a nice rainy winter Auckland afternoon. How's it going?
It's good. It's good. I haven't been out in the rain too much yet,
good.
so it's good.
Yeah, it's nasty out there today. I'm just heading overseas in a couple of days to sunny Florida, so I'm looking forward to that.
Good.
And did you say you were going away as well, right?
Yeah, I'm heading away for a little while too. But I'm not going to be in the summer for a big block of time. I'm coming back quite soon.
Right.
I'll come back before the tour, like maybe a month or more before the tour, 6 weeks before the tour, get some rehearsing done.
Right.
Carry on writing.
Okay, and the tour that we're talking about is the Free Flight tour that's
right.
Just announced today. So what is involved in a free flight tour?
Well, not free flights for the audience. My daughter pointed out that could be, I could be opening myself up for audience members coming and wanting perks, and But no, it's how did that name come about? We for some reason I wanted ducks on the imagery,
right?
Like either ducks on the poster or ducks on something we were going to sell at the gig, because I like ducks, and then that artwork kind of got going,
right?
And it looked really nice, and it sort of developed its own momentum, and so I had to have some reason to link it to the tour. So I was going to. There were a few duck options, like Ducks in a Row,
right?
Or, the Duck and Cover tour. I thought maybe I'd play a lot of covers. So as you can see, the other name options were not great.
Right.
Yeah, so the Free Flight tour sounded good, and it also seems like it seems appropriate because I'm kind of doing what I want to do. I'm playing the venues I really want to play at, places that I've played at before, that I've really enjoyed playing at, like Barrytown Hall on the west coast of the South Island, and the Gaiety Theatre in Akaroa, and I'm mixing it up too. I'm doing some gigs solo and some gigs with Chris O'Connor, and I've been trying to work out a way of expanding the solo show without going all the way to a band.
Right.
And when we released Lucky Stars, I went out with a band that wasn't quite a band, so it was Chris and Tom Rodwell playing guitar, and me playing my loops and my guitar. So I didn't have a bass guitar, and that was really cool. But then I thought it'd be interesting to see what I could do with a sort of multi-instrumentalist who was also a drummer. And Chris is such a force of nature.
He is indeed.
And he worked out that he could actually use this sort of mini kit that looks like he's gone to cash converters to find a drum set.
Yeah.
And he uses that and plays it with one hand, and then plays an organ with the other hand, and then does backing vocals.
Nice.
And does my tax returns at the same time.
That's handy. Yeah. Fantastic. So it must be a very different thing to go out into these tiny little places rather than playing some gig in Auckland or even Wellington or whatever.
Well, surprisingly not. I mean, the audiences that come out in those far-flung places are just as critical.
Right.
And you can get a really great engagement, like with people sort of throwing you their stories while I'm telling my stories, which maybe happens more, the further off the beaten track you get. But no, they're really thoughtful audiences, and people who love songs, and sometimes they're people that have been hanging out to see me for a while, and that's always great.
Yeah. So what kind of stuff are you going to be playing?
I've got the back catalogue, which I'm kind of feeling a nice sense of freedom about lately. There's a lot of songs that I've. It was helped by working with Shane Carter. The other was that last year, or year before last? I think year before last. Oh.
Time flies, yeah.
And last year as well. We did a whole bunch of gigs where we curated each other's catalogue,
right?
And so we alternated songs, and I chose his songs and he chose mine, and that helped me to kind of go up into the attic of my work and with a torch,
right?
And I was really surprised at what I found. There were some things which I'd rejected. I thought they were sort of pompous or silly or slight or something,
right.
And actually they're not bad when you look at them differently. So I'm going to be ranging pretty freely through my back catalogue and playing some hits, and I've got some beginnings of new songs as well.
Oh, good.
I'm working on the next album now. Should have it out by early next year, I hope.
And is that taking any particular direction? How is this, whereabouts are you?
Sort of Eurovision Song Contest.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, definitely not. It's I'm. Yeah, I mean, I guess because I'm away from New Zealand a little bit now, I'm kind of living some of the time out in New Zealand and some of the time back here. That always gives you a different kind of perspective. Mm-hmm. So I'm finding that interesting in the writing. I'm writing, I guess, looking back at my own history and writing about that a bit more. I'm also noticing that each album seems to be in conversation with the last to a degree. So the Lucky Stars was a very, very personal record with a lot of songs about waking up and being alive. You know, I mean, I've always wanted people to come to shows and leave them feeling more alive as a result of songs, but that album actually is saying that quite explicitly. There's a couple of songs which are really about the moment when you are in a really ordinary day and you kind of look around and realize that you're human and you know, you won't be here long and you might as well experience the world in a really keen way.
Right.
And I think this album, because I've done that on the last album, I think I'll be able to sort of sail into sort of things which are more oblique, you know, stuff where I'm not always the center of the frame.
Right.
I'm finding it interesting again to do something that I used to do in the old days, which is adopt a character and tell a story from that character's perspective. That's really fun. And also instrumentally, I think the early sketches for songs on this record, they seem like they're gonna have a bit more blood in their veins. You know, if a song feels like it wants a band, I'm gonna play it with a band. Right. And if a song feels like it needs an orchestra or something, I'm gonna go for that. So I'm really excited about this new, you know, all the new ideas that are coming.
It does sound exciting. It's pretty cool. And any ideas of who you might be working with in a band when any of these songs call for a band?
Well, Chris
yeah.
Obviously,
yeah.
But I'm also blessed because I've got lots of friends in the music business here, and I think if I call them up, they'll say yes. You know, so I think the sky's the limit in terms of.
You were telling me you were just backing up Neil Finn in Australia.
Yeah, that was great. That was great.
Fun.
Yeah. He's done beautiful work with me on previous albums. On Marvelous Year, he sang backing vocals on a couple of tracks. So yeah, I'd love to call him in. No, he was doing his album Out of Silence, doing it in the Sydney Opera House with the orchestra, a Sydney-based orchestra, conducted by Victoria Kelly. Right. And a band which was a choir which was made up of some Kiwis who sang on the album and some Aussies. Great bunch of people. Sarah Belchin, who's a beautiful singer-songwriter over there. Shane Nicholson, who's do you know his work?
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful, man. And so I got to stand, you know, we got to meet all these guys and stand next to them and sing Neil's song. Yeah. A guy called Darren Percival, who's also a singer-songwriter, Australian songwriter. So yeah, lovely bunch of people.
It must be interesting. I mean, when you started out playing, you know, with Blam 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 and whatever, and Neil was doing split ends and all that, to think that, you know, 30 plus years later you'd be doing all these kind of intricate, you know, very it's not non-rock and roll, but it's much more an expanded musical palette that you're working with. Yeah. Are you surprised that you've come to that situation?
I mean, if you think about the kind of music scene that we were in the 70s and 80s that Split Ends came out of, or Split Ends contributed to, actually gave rise to in some ways. It's like a solution from which many different things can be made. It's like a chemistry set, you know, from which all these different compounds and things can arise, and because there's a really classical orchestral sort of side to early ends. And,
that's true.
And also, I guess I grew in Auckland at the time when I was just getting going in bands. People were cross-pollinating people were moving between different disciplines a lot. There was all these kind of theatre groups that were like Red Mole and Rats Theatrics and groups like that, and Richard von Sturmer's own work, you know, outside the Plague.
Right.
You know, the Plague was like a project for him for a while, but he was doing all kinds of cool theatre things like Inside Information and the Humanimals and all kinds of cool things, which are not bands, they weren't theatre,
right.
they weren't folk music, they're sort of uncategorizable, just ways of telling stories and moving people.
Right.
And sometimes in your career you fit more into a label, and sometimes you don't. You know, so I'm quite happy to be less labelable now than I used to be.
Yeah, excellent. Now, I think the most important question on everybody's mind is, are there going to be tea towels on this tour?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Maybe some with ducks on them.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and this, you know, I always said early on that at some point the tea towels are going to drive the whole venture. So we'll come up with an idea for a tea towel, and that'll give rise to an album. And
right.
Then, you know, it hasn't been quite like that this time. Although the ducks, I like ducks, and then Anne's Taylor designed this gorgeous tea towel with ducks on it, and then the ducks have got their kind of Latin name and their Māori name.
Oh,
and,
right.
And they look really cool. And then we did a tour poster which has got ducks for every gig, and a little key down the bottom with the what ducks are what.
Nice.
So yeah, no, definitely. We'll probably make those two items tea towels, and they can be, people can leave draped in tea towels.
Because I think you kind of set the standard for tea towel selling at music.
You think?
shows. Yeah,
you think
people come up and other musicians come and talk to me.
You
about
reckon?
it all the time.
Phoenix Foundation do a pretty handy line as well. I think they've got tea towels and mugs, and there was some other item. We took I mean, the Handsome family. They're really impressive. They have cups and and like matchboxes and all manner of things. So it's early days.
All right. Well, we'll wait and see what happens.
Yep.
So the tour is starting when? It's like 2 months away, 3 months away. When is it?
Yeah, mid-September.
September. All right.
Mid-September. At the end of that tour, I do Australia gigs in Australia, and then I'm heading to the UK and Europe for the first time in a few years. So I'm doing a London show and a Glasgow show, and then we're looking at Amsterdam and further afield.
Excellent. And then a new album after that.
Yep.
It all comes together. Fantastic. Well, thanks for stopping by and telling me all about it.
Thanks, Marty.
You're welcome.